The Chair will recognize the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Wilson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Judge Poe, and thank each of you for being here today. I think it's been very helpful. And Ambassador Edelman, your concerns about the course of negotiations with your background, this is really important for the American people to know. Additionally, to me, it's really unfortunate that this administration did not give, I believe, sufficient encouragement to the young people of Iran who years ago, just a few years ago, were seeking to rebuild a modern, advanced nation. We could have given encouragement. And I'll never forget the young accountant who bled to death as she was laying on the street. The people of Iran want better, and we need to be encouraging them. In regard to that, Mr. Hanna, what is your analysis of the logic to the President's negotiating strategy that the threat of stronger sanctions will drive the Iranians away rather than compel them to make a better and real agreement? It seems illogical to me and many of my constituents, and the reverse of reality.
I think it's unfortunate that the President, the way he's approached the issue of prospective sanctions, I think he has essentially bought into an Iranian narrative. And I think upfront and in advance, he is essentially granting legitimacy if Iran decides to act on prospective sanctions and walk away from this deal. They've essentially got the President of the United States more or less saying they'd be justified in doing that. That he has been much tougher on the Congress than he has been on Iran in these talks. And I think the focus of sanctions, I don't believe it would lead Iran to walk away from these negotiations. If it did, it would be only temporary. I think pressure is the only thing that's worked with the Iranian regime, and I think pressure is our best means of getting a diplomatic settlement in this situation and actually avoiding war, quite the contrary to what the President suggests.
Avoiding war and threat to America, our allies. Dr. Takei, Iran for decades has sponsored numerous terrorist attacks in places as far-flung as Thailand, Beirut, New Delhi, Lagos, Nairobi, including the 2011 plot to assassinate the Saudi Arabian ambassador to the United States and bomb the Israeli and Saudi embassies in Washington. How can the United States trust such a government to keep any agreement? This is in the context of demonstrators in Tehran carrying signs in English proclaiming death to America, death to Israel.
I think that's a fair point. I would suggest that in Islamic Republic's conception, international law and international norms are conspiracies. Forged by the Western powers and inflicted upon it in an unfair and injudicious way. It is kind of difficult to suggest that Iran can be a member of the NPT in good standing while at the same time being a leading sponsor of terrorism. The two statements cannot be co-joined in a sort of a logical construct. That's why I think once there is an agreement, the immediate challenge of it is detection of inevitable Iranian violations. And I'm not quite sure how, in aftermath of an agreement, you can deal with those violations in a sort of a systematic way with reintroduction of sanctions and penalties, because I think the inclination would be to have an American delegation meet an Iranian delegation and highlight those disagreements and those violations, and presumably they take some corrective action. But I suspect if Iran does not violate its arms control agreement prospectively, it is the first time in history that has not violated an international legal instrument.
And that's incredible. Thank you. Additionally, the American people need to know, as Iran is claiming, of the regime, that this is for peaceful purposes. They're also, Mr. Einhorn, developing a ballistic missile capability. Already they have a capability of striking as far as southeastern Europe, Greece, Bulgaria, Romania. And they're developing a greater ICBM. They've launched a satellite. In light of that, with this delivery system, should the long-term agreement include limitations on a ballistic missile capability?
I think it would be good if there could be ballistic missile constraints in a nuclear deal. I don't think it's going to happen. The Iranians say that our missiles are for conventional weapons delivery, not for nuclear, so this has no part to play. I think we're going to have to pursue quite aggressively the question of Iranian ballistic missile capability, but separately from these negotiations. I think it's very important. I think the administration tries very hard to interdict procurement by Iran of equipment and technology for Iran's missile program. I think this should be a top priority. The ballistic missile defense programs we have, we're working on with our European partners, are designed to counter Iran's ballistic missile capability. But I think making it a part of the nuclear negotiations is going to be hard.